If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, and you guessed it, it's free. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in just one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Pieces of a Nation. Welcome back, Pieces of a Nation listeners. Thank you so much for coming back onto this platform. This podcast is a podcast that makes you feel stuff. I don't even know why I started on that. I say it all the time. But my name is Richard Chu. Please follow us on Instagram at Pieces of a Nation. Also, please support us on Patreon. It's only $5 a month. Just go to Patreon, www.patreon.com/Pieces of a Nation. Also, if these conversations resonate with you, please leave a comment with your thoughts and any suggestions you'd like to hear in the future and in the review section. Today, I'd like to introduce a lady who is a trauma release coach, which is a really fascinating title to me because, whether or not, we know it, there's certain types of traumas that we've all gone through. And I'm really excited to go in depth with her knowledge and wisdom in her area of expertise. I'd like to introduce Tracy Osborne. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's jump straight into it. I know you've done, you have a lot of podcasts going on. You've done your, 6 before this, and you have another one after this. So we'll just jump straight into it. So tell us a little about, trauma release coaching, and also a little bit about your past, so the audience understands where you're coming from.
Sure. Well, let me start with my past, and then we'll go into the trauma coaching. So I am a survivor of domestic abuse, sexual assault, and rape, as well as childhood emotional trauma and grief. So I have a lot going on. I don't want to get too deep into my past, for the listeners. I don't want to cause any triggers. But, suffice it to say, I have been in multiple domestic abuse relationships, and I've had I've been raped twice with one sexual assault. So it wasn't, though, until I lost my husband a couple years ago that I decided trauma work is where I need to be. I mean, who better than somebody who's already gone through it themselves, right? So trauma release coaching, and I use the word release rather than recovery, because recovery to me sounds like it's something that, like, we're broken or we're sick or, we have to recover from it. Whereas with release, it's empowering, and we're releasing that trauma that we hold on to. And what I do is work with women, survivors, and I help them to move past their past and release their trauma so that they can create a present that is amazing and a future that's even better.
Wow. I can't even imagine what that feels like. Going through something like that. Is it okay to ask you to kind of share a little bit about your process of how you got started? Because trauma is such a specific thing, and it's also such a general thing, right? You've experienced certain levels of trauma specific to what you just shared. I'm sure many people experience certain types of trauma in all different areas. I've experienced psychological trauma, right? Mental trauma, right? Mm-hmm. So for you to come to this point in your life, what did it take you to get here? How did you muscle through the energies and overcome your personal fears in order to get to this point?
Oh my goodness. So it has been a long road, and a long time coming. It took me a lot of work to, get over what has happened to me in the past. One of the biggest things that helped me is by speaking about it. By knowing that sharing my story, I am helping other people know that they're not alone and that there is hope and there is life after trauma. When Mark died 2 years ago, that's when I really decided that I wanted to get into trauma work. I really wanted to work with women and help them because I know what it's like, trying to get back to who you're supposed to be. Um, but how did I get over the fears? That was a lot of work. I mean, it was, and I can't say that I'm 100% over, fear of, am I doing the right thing? Am I really supposed to be a coach? Am I really supposed to be doing this? Every once in a while, I still get that imposter syndrome going. It's a confidence thing, but really working on who am I and who do I want to be has been the biggest keys for me.
Got it. Got it. I mean, who did you, I'm curious about, gosh, this is such a delicate question because it's, I can easily kind of like dig through this, but I want to be able to, ask the most efficient questions here. So I guess the next question that really comes up for me is, to speak about it. You mentioned that, because speaking about something really is a partial releasing, right? You're releasing all that, a certain amount of energy. But after releasing that, we still have to do the work in order to cultivate some sort of healing within our bodies, right? So I guess my question here would be, when you decided you wanted to change your mindset, your life, the way you saw this whole thing, like what did you get? What steps did you take to cultivate that and to be able to create a foundation for yourself so that you can stand on it and move forward in life?
I've been studying different things, like law of attraction, finding your why. I remember when all that first came out, 10, 15 years ago. And so that really kind of has gotten me started on the mindset shift, understanding that what I think I become, that kind of thing. But I've done a lot of interpersonal work. I have worked with a therapist for a little bit. I've worked with different coaches for a little bit. But I really had to make that commitment to myself that I was ready for a change, that I didn't want to continue going about the way things were. I knew what life was like when I didn't make the changes. I wanted to see what life would be like when I did make the changes and when I did start doing the work. So I really had to commit. I also had to accept that, my past is my past. I've lived in my past for so long that it was muddled. Is my past or is it my present? Is it my future? What am I doing here? And I had to really make that shift and put it behind me. So I accepted, what has happened in the past as just that. It's happened in the past. I've had to work very hard on forgiving myself for many different things in my past. And then really work on letting go of the pent up emotions around trauma and just letting go of the trauma itself, so that when I think about it, when I talk about it, there's no longer an emotion tied to it. It's just something that happens.
Right. Because we understand that as long as we're able to detach ourselves from the emotional ties of a specific moment in our history, that's when we actually develop the power to move forward and be able to create a new sense of ourself, as as we're trying to muscle through and filter through our not just our junk, but also the junk that we see in the world, because that's such a mirror reflection in a way. I guess it's interesting because I think that going through something like this is such, how can I say this? There's a level of responsibility that I feel like that we get to really take a full hold of, because going something through like I can only speak to myself, right? So for me, because I went through a certain amount of mental trauma, also struggled with maladaptive daydreaming and a couple other things, right? My sensitivity level of wanting to reach out to people like you and have these conversations so that we can not just expand our own sort of like ideas about who we are, but also our community, and also possibly help someone who might not have the connections to talk to somebody, or even have the courage to talk to somebody. Like how did you navigate through all that? You talked to some people, and you reached out and you started developing yourself, and started shifting your mental mindset. In those times, how did you actually develop the courage to really step out of that?
I just did it. And said to heck with the fear. Because it is scary. It's very vulnerable putting yourself out there and saying, hey, this happened to me. I did this, this, that, and the other. And there's a huge fear of judgment. For example, I never told anybody about the second time I was raped, because I put myself in that situation, or I felt I put myself in that situation, I should say, because I know now it wasn't my fault. Yes, I was at an apartment. Yes, there was two guys there. Yes, I was drinking, and I guess I blacked out. But that doesn't mean that they had every right to rape me while I was passed out. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And it was hard to be able to articulate that for fear of being judged. Well, you put yourself in that position. You were the one drinking with two guys that you barely knew, I said that to myself enough. I didn't need other people saying it to myself or saying it to me.
Right.
So it was really, in the beginning, I spoke about one thing. And then I started adding on more bits of my story. And then I would add on more bits of my story. So I didn't come right out and say, this is everything that's happened to me. And even nowadays, there's still things about my story in my past that I don't talk about, or I don't talk about freely. And, and it is for fear of being judged, but a lot of it for me is the more I do it, the more I speak about it, the less scary it becomes. The more women who come to me and say, thank you for sharing your story. I really needed to hear that. I really needed to know I wasn't alone. Your story gave me the courage to go tell my own story and that kind of thing. That's what really fuels it and negates the fear.
It's really an opportunity to, recreate happiness in your life, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know that I was ever truly happy before. I don't know that I knew what happiness actually looked like.
Wow. Wow. I guess this is a good segue to because you wrote a book. You wrote a book called "Happiness is a Choice," correct?
It's an ebook.
It's
Yeah.
an ebook. It's still a book, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I find that title, really profound because it's happiness is really a choice,
Mhm.
on so many different levels. What Tell us a little bit about that book, and what prompted you to want to even write a book, because writing a book is not an easy task, right?
Yeah.
But tell us a bit about the history about making that book and what got you to do it.
Well, it's just a short little book. And basically it just spells out, you have to make the choice on whether or not you want to be happy. Nobody can make that choice for you. And your life is your responsibility. Your happiness is your responsibility. You can't put that on other people. And so it just kind of outlines some of the steps, to take to um, start making those mindset shifts, journaling, meditation, grounding, some of those things. Um, and why did I do it? Because it needed to be done. Somebody had to write it. Um, and it's just a little freebie that I give away on my website that you can go to. Uh, I am working on a more in-depth book, Healing the Trauma Within. That is going to be more in-depth about, really taking you through the steps of trauma. Um, how do you heal from trauma? How do you move past it? How do you release it? All of that, in depth um, stuff around healing and letting go.
Right.
And part of that will be, part about finding your happy again. Because when we're trauma survivors, we tend to lose our happiness, or, we think we have it, but we may not necessarily really know what happiness or happy even means. Just like for a lot of us, we don't really understand what love is,
Mm,
especially those of us who have been sexually assaulted. It's or have uh, you know, like for me, mine started with abandonment issues from my father. I thought he abandoned me when my parents got divorced, you know, and so I looked for love elsewhere, but I never really knew what love was because, I just didn't feel like I'd really experienced it.
mm, mm, mm. Wow. Yeah. I can understand how that how all that could be. Sort of was what I'm looking for. I guess deceptive to reality in a way, if that makes sense. You said something that was really great, and I think it would be make a great title. It's finding your happy again. Um, you know. That phrase, finding your happy again, it's a constant, it's almost like a constant battle in a way, right? To find your happy again, each day. I don't know if you meditate every day or do some sort of spiritual workout every day, but when we wake up, it's our job to find that happiness again, right?
Mhm.
And it's our responsibility to be our true selves, our highest potential, so that we can be a part of this world and really live in it. I, you know, I really want to understand, like, what that means to you. I understand. I understand that you've gone through so much and you've come to this point, but at times you feel like you're still an imposter, right?
Mhm.
But do you understand what happiness is now? And if you do, what does that happiness mean to you?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I do understand what happiness is now. Um, and it means everything to me because when I feel the happy, I feel confident. I feel secure. I feel love, not just from others, but for myself. Um, I feel like I can take on the world. And when I'm not feeling happy, and happy, I think, is an emotion that is subjective to each person. I think we can all describe it in different ways. That's how it makes me feel, or how I feel, how I describe it. But when I'm not feeling that way, that's when the depression comes in, the darkness comes in, the mood swings. I'm not productive. For example, gosh, it was a couple of weeks ago, I was mad at my partner for something, and I went to bed mad, and I thought, I'm going to wake up mad, and I'm going to be mad at him all day tomorrow. And that's exactly what happened. And I had a miserable day because I made the choice to stay mad rather than get over it. It was stupid. It wasn't anything to be mad about. But I made the choice to stay mad. And so the next day I had a horrible day because I made that choice. And it wasn't until I said, okay, I'm done feeling this way. Let's bring the happy back, that I was able to make that shift and change my day. When you're in that mindset, things tend to go better for you. Or if they do go wrong, you tend to handle them better.
Mm.
You have more control over your emotions. And you just tend to, I don't know, for me, I just feel better all around, I don't know about you, but when I'm in that angry phase, I feel icky, I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
I just don't like feeling, feeling icky and feeling like, I don't know, like there's a residue covering me of this emotion, and I don't want it anymore,
I used to call it the wall of doo-doo, right?
There you go.
Yeah, it's the wall of doo-doo that appears every so often, and and it's sometimes, depending on my mood and what I've had for my diet, for instance, right?
Yes.
The foods that I eat. I used to drink a lot. I was a constant drinker, and constant adamant drinker. I had to drink, mainly because I needed to numb myself in a way. So,
Yeah.
but the depression would last anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks, and the ones that hit around the 3 week mark was so devastating. Well, to me, I was so used to it. I lived in that world, but to my wife, she was just like, man, you walk around with this gray cloud around you, right? I mean, what is that character from Peanuts where this is constant.
Pigpen.
Pigpen. I was.
He's got that dust cloud around him. Yeah.
I was Pigpen for 3 weeks, every so often, and it was. I never noticed it. I thought it was just a natural thing for me, but I knew there was something that I wasn't happy about. But I didn't really take the responsibility for that. I was always pointing to other people, other things outside of myself, and never realizing that I needed to do more work with myself, because my arrogance, in a way, and my ego always had thought, I'm good. I study a lot. I read a lot. But what really needed to happen was I needed to take full responsibility for my actions and the things that I do in life, so that I can create that, sort of that not sort of, but like that happiness in my life, because that's where it comes down to. I mean, tools. What kind of tools do you use currently and have used to keep yourself centered in a way?
I use journaling. I don't meditate on a daily basis like I should. I do it more when I need it, when I'm feeling flighty, I'm not feeling grounded. I'm just like, I can't focus. then I'll take a few minutes, and I don't sit for like 20 minutes, half hour, whatever. I just sit for a few minutes, 5 minutes max, and just focus on my breathing, quiet my thoughts. And, any thoughts that come through, I just let them flow through. They don't stick. And then I just focus on grounding myself again, feeling that feeling I get when I know that I'm rooted. Um, so that's a big one for me. Journaling is huge. Getting it out. I don't journal every day, but again, it's one of those things when I feel I need to, then I will just sit down and just write and let it all out. And my support team is a huge tool in my arsenal. Having those people that you trust, that you can turn to when you're not feeling your best, especially if they understand and they know what you're going through. My fiance, he totally gets depression, anxiety, and all that. So I can say, I feel depression coming on. And we know that, for the next few days or the next few weeks, my productivity level is going to drop a little bit. It may mean that I need to call the doctor and say, hey, I feel a wave of depression coming on. Let's amp up my meds for a couple of weeks. And then we'll come back off them when the depression goes away, something like that.
Right.
And I'm not ashamed to be on depression medication. That's something that I want to make sure that, is noted, is that sometimes we need that external medication to help us. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You got to have all the tools that you can to get through the traumas and to find your happy.
Right. You talked about support group. I mean, I think support groups are definitely highly essential. It's important to definitely have people around that you can trust and be able to express yourself in the most vulnerable way, and so that you get the compassion and the understanding from the other side, and be able to relate. For your support group, how did you find your support group, and how large is your support group?
Well, my team, really is very close knit. I'm in, like groups, like Facebook groups, since I have my own Facebook group called Releasing Trauma. But, my personal go-to is very small. It's only about 3 or 4 people, because I need to know that there are people that I can trust that aren't going to judge me, or, they'll call me on my BS if need be, and they've got my back. As far as, finding my group, it just was a matter of just knowing who in my circle was that person. And when you go through trauma, you kind of start figuring out who those people are, because they'll still be there when you're in the middle of a nightmare. They'll still be there for you. Whereas the other people will kind of fall off, or they'll turn toxic. So that's how you kind of start finding your circle. As far as support groups, there's support groups for just about every trauma, everything imaginable, especially, like on Facebook and stuff. And they're great places. When I first lost my husband, first place I turned was a widows group. And, one of the members of my support team, actually, I found him, and he's one of my best friends now. And when I'm having those moments around the loss of my husband, I will go to him because he gets it. He understands because he's been through it. When I'm having those mental health issues, I go to my fiance because he gets it. He's been there, Yeah. So I have those people. My group is fantastic for women to come in and, they just need a group of women who get it and are just there for them. That's what my group is for, is to
Mm,
just let you know that, help you remember that you're not alone and to give you that kind of love and support that you need.
mm, mm. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I definitely agree. Groups on Facebook are pretty amazing. There's so many of them right now, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard to keep track. You said you were writing a second book. If it's okay with you, I'd love to kind of like dig into that and some of the subject. Or not subject matter, because obviously we know what the subject matter is, but some of the lessons and things that you're putting into this book. Would that be okay to share?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes that I have up on the wall here to help me figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean to kind of prep
It's a messy process.
yeah, I get it. I just wanted to, be able to, prep the audience to, for those who want to get your book, and find out more about you and this subject and overcoming things.
Sure.
I mean, I think it'd be a great way to prep them for this.
No, absolutely. Um, I'm going to be talking about different healing modalities. There's different ways to heal out there. So we're going to cover some of the big ones, the most popular ones that are out there. Things like neural linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, EFT tapping, those kinds of things, as well as talk therapy. Talk therapy is great. We're going to talk about the grieving process. What does that look like? What does forgiving yourself look like? What else we got going on? We're going to be talking about your inner child. That's a big one there because so many of us deal with childhood traumas.
Mm.
And, that inner child is screaming for attention and love. So we're going to talk about healing your inner child, finding your identity. Who are you? Who do you want to be? You'll never be who you were before the trauma.
Mm.
Never. So who do you want to be now? And you can create that person. It's like you have a blank canvas. You can create this amazing person from scratch. Talk about disrupting your patterns, finding your patterns and disrupting them. Things from your past. For example, I tended to lean towards the same type of men, hence the multiple domestic violence relationships I was in. So it was figuring out that pattern and disrupting that pattern that was able to change my relationships. So we're going to talk about that. I'm probably going to talk about Me Too a little bit. And then I want to talk about post-traumatic growth. We all talk about post-traumatic stress or, PTSD. But I'm going to talk about post-traumatic growth because I think that is, for me, that just is more empowering because you can either just stay stagnant or you can grow, which you really want to do, So we're going to talk about post-traumatic growth. So those are just a few of the things we'll talk about. Triggers. What are triggers? How to deal with them? How to cope with them? Big T traumas, little T traumas. Depression is a big one.
Yeah.
That I'll talk about. Rewriting your stories that you tell yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm fascinated about the post-traumatic growth. That's almost like a new term being coined in a way. What does that exactly mean, and what does that mean to you?
So post-traumatic growth is, that's what you experience after you've gone through the healing phase. So you have your trauma where you're the victim. Then you have the survivor phase. And that's just kind of where you're going along and maybe starting your healing journey. And then you have what I call the thriver phase. And that's where I can't say that you're healed, because I don't think we ever fully heal from our traumas, but we learn how to cope with them. We learn how to live with
Manage
them.
them,
Yeah,
right?
manage them. Yeah. And we grow around them. So, for example, one of the examples I like to share is a little meme or something that I saw not so long ago, where about grief. And you take a rock, you put the rock in the jar, and the rock fills the jar. Well, then you get a bigger jar and a bigger jar. The rock doesn't change. You just learn to grow around it. So your trauma doesn't change. It will always be there. You just grow around it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with post-traumatic growth is we've done, we've gone through the nightmare part. And now it's, who are we? Who do we want to become? How are we going to handle life in the future? How are we going to handle life in the present? What kind of life do we want to have? So yeah, that's the basics around post-traumatic growth. It's something I still have to flesh out a little bit more, because it is a new term. It's one that I just stumbled on. I was like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and it's a really good term. You should copyright or trademark that term.
I may have to.
Yeah,
if it's not already done, I may have to. Yeah.
You should definitely Google that. But it sounds like it's adapting to your environment, right? Learning to adapt to your environment. Really, that's what post-traumatic growth is. And yeah, it's I find that fascinating, because no matter which like avenue of of work you want to get into, there's always a certain learning curve, right? And to be able to adapt to that environment efficiently and quickly, that's almost like a testament to your own not diligence, but your
Resilience.
own resilience. Thank you very much. Your own resilience in life. By the way, you mentioned EFT and NLP. I'm huge fans of those. Are you a fan of Brad Yates?
I'm not sure who that is.
Who's your EFT teacher?
I don't have an EFT teacher. I mean, I've just kind of studied it on my own and talked to other people about it. I've never I'm not certified in it or anything like that. I am working on getting certified in NLP, and that is through
nice
Graham. Oh God, what is his last name?
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Yeah, I just totally blew his last name. But I am getting certified in that. I am certified in cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right.
And then
I mean, for those that aren't familiar with EFT, it stands for emotional frequency technique, right? And what that is, it's tapping. And tapping, you tap through your modalities, right? And so you tap through your, they call it the Kung Fu fist, then the top of your eyes, side of your eyes, below your nose, under your chin, your chest, the side, and also the top of your head. Brad Yates, I've been following the guy on YouTube for maybe the past 7 years, and he's probably, I mean, I've done a lot of EFT, but he's probably my most favorite because he feels like the most spiritually centered person and most relaxing person that does EFT on YouTube, and I don't personally know him, but he's on a mission to build like 1 million subscribers on his YouTube. He's about close to 200,000 right now. So every bit of chance that I get, I want to share his work with other people so that he can get to 1 million subscribers, because I think that a lot of people would definitely benefit from EFT tapping.
I will definitely check him out. And it's one of those modalities that you're going to feel really silly doing it in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
You're going to feel really silly. And you definitely don't want to do it around other people, because you're going to look silly. But it works. For whatever reason, hitting these meridians around your body, it works. It's just, It's amazing.
It does.
How it
It
works.
does. Yeah, it does. It's almost like personal acupuncture, right?
Yeah. Or
And by the way,
acupressure.
acupressure. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, I meant to say meridians and not modalities, but thank you for correcting me on that one. Yeah, absolutely. When you tap on certain like meridians, it almost relieves a certain type of pressure, right?
Mhm.
And depending on the pressure and the amount of um, craziness that you're going through at the time, as we tap, you definitely feel better afterwards. Like whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of tapping. But I wouldn't go over 20 minutes of tapping because it starts to get a little sore afterwards, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but EFT is one of my favorite tools to use through any process if I'm going through any anxiety or stress. I mean, that's just one. Tool in the tool shed that I love using.
Mhm.
But I'm glad you're also doing NLP. Wow, man, and getting certified by that. That's pretty amazing.
That one's my favorite, I think, because it's so amazing that to think that the thoughts that we have literally carve pathways in our brain, literally. And and that's why, we have so many thoughts. We have like somewhere around 60,000 thoughts per day, something like that. And of those, I think the stats are like 95% of those are the same thoughts we had the day before.
Mhm.
And 75% of those, actually, no, I take that back. 75% is what we had the day before. 95% of those are negative.
Mm.
And so what NLP does is it helps you to become more aware of those thoughts. And when you have them, you stop them in their path and you change them and you reframe them. And so eventually the old thoughts, those pathways will disappear and the new thoughts will create new pathways in your brain. And this is like literally happening. It's not just some woo woo thing, but it's like literally happening in your brain. And for me, I just think that is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, when we were born, we're born, happy in a way, right? And
Yeah.
then, but those reprogrammings, of certain types of experiences in our lives are actually rewiring our brain. What we're actually doing through NLP, and just for the listeners, NLP is neuro linguistic programming, right? So you're literally reprogramming yourself through out of whatever you experienced
Mhm.
that's not valuable in our lives, right? So in this case, whatever trauma we're going through, we have to reprogram ourselves, and essentially shift the mindset on how
Mhm.
we think about certain things, in our lives, and our perspective on things, so that we can come back to the happiness of life, right? That's really what it comes down to. It's like we coming back to happiness, and retaining happiness. It should be easy, but it's not.
It is so not.
It's not. It's not. And I have to laugh about it because I've done a lot of work on myself. The past 25, 30 years, I've done a lot of work on myself. And I think within the last 10 years, I've been able to come to a period, or a point in my life where I just can laugh at it. It's like, okay, cool. This is what it is. I got to move forward, right? I got to continue to
Right.
move forward, right? And because happiness isn't waiting, right? You have to create that on your own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you do it through, changing your mindset, creating boundaries, knowing your worth, finding yourself, your self love, all of that helps to create that happiness.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And,
Uh,
and it's funny that you laugh at it because it is easier to hold on to the negative and the bad than it is the positive and the good. And I'll never figure out why, but it just is.
yeah. Well, it's the sort of like, a rule of thumb where it's easier to not smile, but it takes work to smile. You have to use all those muscles, right?
Right.
I mean, now when there are obstacles in my life, or if I feel anxiety come on, sometimes it'll shake me. But when I get to that point of oh, I see this again, I just thank it. I've gotten to the point where I can just embrace it, right, and really just appreciate it, because the way I see it now, the things that are coming up as I'm moving forward in life and doing my best to advance myself in whatever I'm doing, those are the certain things in my body or my memories that are keeping me from that. So so as I approach that and those things pop up, I've learned and trained myself to hug it, to internally hug it, and and just be able to go, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot for looking out for me. You're like my warning sign, right? And cool.
Yeah.
I see you. Let's keep on moving forward, right? But no matter how scary it looks like, I just have to, go face to face and, look into the eye of the storm and say, cool, thank you so much. And then move forward. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not easy.
Nothing ever good is easy, right? I think that's the saying or something like that.
Something like that. Tracy, if there was one thing that you can leave with the listeners, especially that one listener who's listening intently and really wants to change their mindset, what would that one thing be?
The biggest thing that I always like to leave listeners with is to remind them that they're not alone and that there is life after trauma.
Well said. Well said. I love that. Are there any social media links, your website that you'd like to share? Obviously the book, anything you like to plug?
Yeah, you can find me. Just go to traumareleasecoaching.com. And from there, you'll be able to find the book. You'll be able to find all my social media links, everything else. So the easiest thing is just go to traumareleasecoaching.com. Oh, one more thing. So July 19th through 23rd, I am hosting, it's called Healing the Trauma Within. It's a global women's summit. I have 40 speakers, all who are trauma survivors and experts in different areas of trauma, coming on, and they're talking about how to rewrite your story, how to release trauma from the body, talking about grief and getting away from anxiety, and just so much information. It's completely free to join.
Wow.
You just go to healingthetraumawithin.com.
Healingthetraumawithin.com.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And okay, great. So with that, that's all they would need to do is just go to that website and everything. Go to that
website, enter your name and email, and then you get all the information. Yeah.
Fantastic. Tracy, well, thank you so much for your time and, being able to, not just share your heart, but also being vulnerable and, open to having this communication. And, I hope that we can be able to continue this conversation later in the future.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So thank you everyone for listening. Peace out.